I'm Allison with Dill Air Controls. In today's TPMS 101, Service Kits, we're going to talk about ways to use your resources to explain the importance of replacing service kits and valve stems. Then I'll introduce Brian Rigney, who will demonstrate how simple it is to replace service kits. For general information on TPMS, check out our Fundamentals of Proper Service video. I have Dill President Brian Rigney here with me today to talk to us about some of the best resources you can use to talk to your customers. Brian?
Thank you, Allison. I'm going to start with our 9700 counter display. This has been tried and true in the industry for many years, and it really helps stand at the counter and explain to a customer how TPMS works and how you're going to service it properly. So for example, we show an actual sensor, which most people don't even know is inside their tires and wheels, and intricate piece of electronics keeping them safe every day. We explain how a battery will run the system to keep the sensor operational. Eventually that will fail and sensors will need to be replaced. In the meantime, with a tire repair or new tire installation, we replace the service components each and every time. Now why do we do that? Well, for the same reason we would replace a regular valve stem every single time. The rubber wears out and needs to be replaced. So for example, the sealing grommet that's on any clamp-in TPMS sensor, we show one that is aged. So we've aged this in our engineering lab and show that way a consumer can touch it and feel how brittle it is. When I install new tires, this has to hold air in the tire. I need to replace this component. And then the other components that go with it, which you'd find in each and every Dill service pack. So for example, 1100K, you have all the components in here. So you look up your proper application, locate the correct TPMS components from Dill, and do the installation. Now on the back of this, we actually aid the counter person to be able to explain how the rubber seal wears out, how everyone in the industry supports you must replace these components, and I'm doing the right thing to properly service your vehicle and keep it safely on the road. So the counter display continues to be a very, very useful aid in explaining TPMS and the need to change out service kits, and of course valve stems. So a lot of the TPMS sensors on the road today have a rubber valve instead of a clamp-in metal valve. But for the same reason, the material used in these valves is similar to 413's traditional valve stems, and we change these out each and every time as well. So the only difference would be to remove the screw or whatever fastening mechanism is in place, replace that valve stem, reattach it to the sensor, and you service the customer correctly. Now another aid that Dill produces is our consumer brochure. So this is handy to have in the waiting room where customers can learn more about, I've seen this light on my dash, what does it mean, how does it work, I didn't know I had this safety system, tell me more. And they can learn about it, and they'll also find that, hey, a tire dealer can service. Even though this is electronics, they don't necessarily have to go back to the car dealer. A tire dealer has the capability and tools and replacement parts in order to service the system. So we give a lot of the basics of the components and the sensors and the law, show them examples of how the light works, if it's flashing versus solid, what does that mean, where they can find placard pressure on their dash or on their door jams so they can put the proper pressure in their tires, and then some of the reasons why you may need a new sensor over time, whether it be corrosion or a road hazard or that batteries have failed. That's a very useful device. And then finally, we offer OEM quotes. That in this case, we have a nice laminated document with 2 pages of quotes from, this is not just the sensor manufacturers, this is now the car manufacturers. So for example, Ford states, when a sensor is removed, a tire is replaced, a new mounting kit must be installed. The mounting kit includes a grommet, valve cap, valve core, hex nut. So a lot of different quotes that someone at the counter can read off to explain to a consumer, I am doing the right thing. I must replace these components, and that is the proper service. And then I guess to add on one more, finally, Dill does have a little magnet that we recommend you can attach to your tire changer, for example. This gives our website, which has incredible information to keep you updated on TPMS, our 800 number, where we have true technical experts to help you should you run into any relearn procedure issues or fitment issues. And then we also provide the 10th digit of the VIN lookup, because sometimes the most common calls we get can be solved by making sure you're looking at the proper make, model, year of the vehicle. There are a lot of sensor protocol changes from year to year, and also, of course, keeping your scan tools updated, which is also critical. So a lot of different tools that we offer beyond just here's a part, good luck. We want to make sure people understand the system and can educate consumers to benefit because it is a safety system.
So Brian, sometimes we get pushback because you want to get a vehicle in and out of the bay fast, and changing the service kit just takes more time. How do you respond to that?
Yes, I've heard that. I think the nice thing is it's actually very simple and easy to change out service kits and valve stems, and instead of you hearing it from me, why don't I just show you how that works? So in addition to being the right thing to do, it's really easy to change out service kits, and let me show you how. So you'd remove the sealing valve cap, simple to do, release the valve core from the valve assembly, and Dill makes torque tools to make installation of all these components very, very simple. So you typically remove the valve core, let the air out of the tire, and then the next step would be to remove the hex nut. So once the nut's out, then the sensor comes loose from the tire and wheel. So I'll get the hex nut off, and I'll show you what I'm looking at here. So this is the sealing grommet that we talked about earlier, most critical component in the assembly. Dill makes really handy tools to get all these components out. So in this case, I can slide this tool over, and I can wedge the grommet off. Typically it's deformed over time because it's taken a set. Could be brittle, could be hard, based on different temperature, exposure, and salt on the road, etc. So I'd get that part off. Now, assuming the valve stem and sensor are in good condition, I'm going to replace the service kit, and this is very, very simple. So you'd look up the part number based on the vehicle. So in this case, I would find Dill 1080K, which is made here in the USA. We color code our kits to make them simple to use. You typically see a lot of our torque values right on the kit as well. So in this case, you'd see 35 inch-pounds written right on the bag. So I'm going to remove the components and basically reassemble the sensor. So pretty straightforward. In this case, there's only a couple of components that we're working with. So we talked about the grommet. So on this particular tool that Dill makes, I can actually slide the other side of the tool over and slide the grommet into place very, very simply. So now I've got my seal in place. Now I can slide it into the wheel hole. I'll slide my sensor in, get it seated correctly, and start the hex nut by hand. Get it into place. And then you really want to be focused on torque here. So Dill does make preset torque tools, one at 40 inch-pounds, one at 65 inch-pounds based on this particular vehicle. The 40 inch-pound tool is the correct torque value. So you can install your hex nut to the correct torque, and you'll get a positive torque feel when you reach that value. So when that clicks, I know I've installed it correctly. So I've given an airtight seal. Customer's going to be very happy. Install a new valve core, which again, very, very simple. Use a torque tool that Dill makes. It'll click when I reach the correct torque. Click, I'm done, I'm happy. And then I can inflate the tire and put the sealing valve cap on. So you're talking, seconds, maybe a minute and a half at most for all these service kits. Very easy to install. So that's the simplicity of it. Now I'll show you a couple other designs. For example, the Dill Ready sensors, which are used on a lot of OEM vehicles. So in this case, 7020K is the service kit, which you'd follow a similar process of replacing the components. If, for whatever reason, the valve stem is corroded or damaged, in this option, you can change out the entire valve stem with a VS70. So you take a VS70 out of the Dill packaging, install it like so, pull it in the rim hole, and then repeat the process of replacing the seal, the hex nut, the valve core, and the valve cap. Now, a lot of vehicles have gone towards a rubber valve over the years, just as easy, if not easier, to replace. So in this case, again, another Dill pre-designed tool to make installation and disassembly simple. So our 5415 would remove the valve screw. There's a few different rubber valve designs. This would be the most common design you'd see out there. So about 10 or so turns, you can have a magnet to hold the screw in place, slide the rubber valve out, take out a Dill VS950, VS20, whatever it may be, and you'd install the new valve into the sensor, put a new screw in, and turn it together. Not much more complicated than just changing out a traditional 413. And to repeat the tool design by Dill, you get a nice click to know I've installed this screw correctly. The sensor and valve are connected properly, and they're going to perform as expected, so the customer will be very satisfied. So changing service kits, changing valve stems out on TPMS is very, very simple. Follow the right process, look up the the information to get the right deal parts, and you'll be good to go. Thanks for joining us for TPMS 101 Service Kits. See you next time.